Hey guys, time for another walk and talk. And the video down below is from CBS Evening News, and they recently had Michael Bloomberg's campaign manager on to talk about Michael Bloomberg's latest push for gun control and stricter background checks. So this is beginning to get tired because there's been a couple of shootings at military installations. In the last 48 hours, there's been two of them. I think one was in Florida and the other one was in Pearl Harbor, which is in Hawaii. So it's really stupid. I mean, they come out and they say, well, you see that shootings are on the rise. Well, this happened on a military base, a military installation. And what exactly would more gun control do to alleviate that type of thing? You're basically saying, well, we want to prevent people like that from getting guns. Look, how many times do we have to say this? That criminals and psychos and sociopaths are not going to abide by the laws. All these gun laws that you're trying to put into place are going to punish the average law-abiding citizen. Think about how an older person that lives alone, such as my aunt, I'll use her as an example. If you were to disallow her from if you were to prevent her from buying a firearm to protect herself when she lives alone, and then she ends up getting burglarized and hurt, or even worse in the process, what exactly has gun control accomplished? It has essentially led to the injury or death of the average law-abiding citizen. And I'll just go ahead and repeat this because it's worth mentioning again. I had somebody comment on one of my videos. This was back when I did the video about Rob Drake, the MLB umpire, talking about AR-15s. And, well, if you try and take my AR-15, if you try and take our AR-15s, then there's going to be civil war. Now, I had somebody comment on that video and say, oh, guns are for cowards. Why don't you go after them with your fists? I'm like, well, okay, first of all, try and use that line in the context of an older person trying to defend themselves from a burglar. You're going to call that sweet old lady a coward for wanting to have a gun. That's pretty sick, if you ask me. And I don't know what else to say about that. But going back to Michael Bloomberg, he's done this in the past where he's tried to capitalize upon public tragedy. Last year when you had the shooting in Pittsburgh at the Squirrel Hill Synagogue, Robert Boyers, he had the AR-15 and he ended up I think he killed at least a dozen people, if not half a dozen, but he was in the spotlight because he used an AR-15, and Michael Bloomberg came out and said, well, this is the reason why we can't allow civilians to have AR-15s. So you're looking at Michael Bloomberg. He's been doing this a lot, and he recently just stopped. By the way, I want to mention that Styx did a really good video about that, just slamming Michael Bloomberg for capitalizing upon public tragedy. I mean, what kind of scumbag do you have to be to do that? And, and all in the meantime, he has armed security detail. And these people they're armed with AR-15s, most likely. Along with their sidearms, they probably have body armor too. And keep in mind, a couple of predictions I want to make. Eventually, they're going to try and ban body armor. They're going to basically say, well, we don't want these mass shooters to be protected with extra armor, so we're going to prevent them from having body armor. No shit, they're going to do this. Mark my words. Another thing, too. Eventually, they're going to start to call guns racist. Can you imagine that? And they're going to use the line, well, most African American, and they're going to be forced to admit this, that the black population in the United States, a minority population, commits over half the crimes in this country. That obviously prevents them from getting weapons the legal way. So they're gonna say, well, guns are racist because blacks get turned down for background checks, when they get their background check done. Just mark my words, guys, that is going to happen. You can't rule out anything with these people. These people are They're psychotic sociopaths. I completely agree with Martin when he says that. So Michael Bloomberg, he recently stopped in Aurora, Colorado, talking about gun control and how we need to, essentially have more of it because of these shootings that happened, these 2 shootings that have happened in the last 48 hours. Now, nobody is discounting that shootings are a public tragedy. And no one's going to question you when you shed a tear over gun violence, because yeah, it is pretty sad. But why should somebody's tears be justification for me giving up my gun, for my aunt giving up her gun? I think that some people might be gullible enough to fall for that. And of course, the legacy media, they're going to push that. They're going to try and, of course they always do this, they're always going to try and capitalize off of people's weak emotions, trying to, yank on their heartstrings, so to speak. But that is not a good enough reason for me to give up my guns. In fact, there are no good enough reasons for me to give up my guns, or for you to give up your guns. And I'll say this again too, because I think this is really something that's flying over a lot of people's heads, and we really need to start, us in the pro-Second Amendment community, we really need to start capitalizing upon this talking point. If I'm a minority, why should I give up my guns? The police, according to you guys, are not going to come protect me or save me if I'm in danger. So why the hell would I give up my guns? And also, why would I give my guns up to the government where Evil Orange Man is president? I think that people are going to have a change of heart when it comes to the Second Amendment. People are going to realize that they've been manipulated by the legacy media, by the government, by any other group that you want to mash in there, into giving up our guns in order to feel safer. Now think about that. People giving up their guns in order to feel safer. That has to be one of the greatest oxymorons ever. So keep that in mind. And Michael Bloomberg, if I had any say in it, I would put anybody that even mentions the idea of gun confiscation and gun control, I would put them in prison because they're violating our Second Amendment rights. If you were, I would actually categorize it as an incitement of violence. If you say, oh, we're going to come get your guns like Beto did, which, for what it's worth, it actually caused a huge spike in gun sales. There was a place that was having like an AR-15/Bible sale. I mean, that's probably one of the most American things I've ever heard of, but these people like Beto, if they're going to talk about, if they're even going to joke about this, oh, we're going to take your guns, I'm going to take that as an incitement of violence, because that's exactly what it would lead to. If you have people going door to door trying to confiscate people's guns without their permission, without their consent, people are going to get hurt. That's what's going to cause the next civil war. So keep that in mind, and we really need to start pushing that idea. When politicians and anybody else comes out and says, we're going to take your guns, that is akin to saying we're going to kill you. And that is not protected by the First Amendment. So I'll leave you guys with that. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. I'll see you later.